Got questions about spiritual life, relationships, inner peace, or navigating everyday challenges with grace? Welcome to Ask A Swami, a Q&A series where you ask and Swamis from Yasodhara Ashram share their insights and experiences. In this episode, I speak with Swami Samayananda, who shares her perspective on happiness and hope.
Murali Krishna, Mukunda Krishna, Mohana Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hi, Swami Samayananda, and welcome to Ask A Swami.
Hi, Katie.
We're going to jump right into today's questions. And the first question is, Dear Swami, what does happiness mean from a spiritual perspective?
Yeah, happiness is an interesting word, isn't it? It's, I think there are levels and levels and levels and levels of it. And so I'll speak about myself and what it means to me. A key thing for me, I would say, is that I had a most amazing teacher, Swami Radha. And it wasn't always a smooth and easy time because she was helping me. And in some ways, I was quite stuck. So she did her very best to love me in the sense of waking me up. And through that, I just kept wanting more and became more disciplined and focused in my own practice. Because I was not trying to be her, but I wanted some of what she had. And one of the things I saw from my own kind of very limited perspective was that she had a rich inner life. And I wanted that. So, yes, I was still living in the world and, living a life in the world and all that that meant. But I wanted something more. And so that's where the practices became really important for me, the daily practices. And what I've seen over the years is that increasingly I rely on what comes through that time that I take, the quiet time I take with myself and with mantra, with the visualizations, whatever it is at that time that is the focus of my practice, that it keeps enriching that part of my life that I can rely on so that I'm not so dependent on what's outside of me. But I know that I always have something I can lean into, which is aspects of myself that have become clearer and stronger. And I think that's a big thing, is that I see over the years how I can rely so much more on myself and not so much on what other people think or say, or what I think they think, or what I think they're going to say. My imagination, in other words. But it's really that reliance, that self-reliance, that strength, that inner strength, that allows me then to be able to offer that to others. I think one of the real happinesses in my life for sure is teaching. Since I was 22, I think, and I'm getting close to 80 now, and all these years I've been teaching. And so I've grown so much in that, in all those years, being with all those different people, actually from a lot of people from all over the world. And again, that's been seeing how the practices and what I do in my own interior life can flow out into whatever I'm doing, wherever I am, whether I'm at the ashram or in my career, it was in the classroom or in a training room, in a business somewhere. And so that inner life has also strengthened gratitude, and gratitude for what I'm given every day, whether it's pleasant unpleasant, whether it's something, wow, it really gets me excited, or something I need to do that I'm not so excited about. But the fact that I have such a rich life where I am, for me, that is being right here at the ashram, being in community. And the community, to me, equals happiness, even though it's not always, there are bumps, as in there are in life, but there's so much here that being with people who are like-minded, who are committed to an inner life and then living it outwardly is, for me, a real source of happiness.
The attitude of gratitude is so important. And what comes to mind is, for me, probably the happiest person I know is someone who has struggled for years and years with a physical illness, with an autoimmune disease. And yet his attitude of gratitude and joy for life is what has sustained him throughout all the challenges, going back to that place of gratefulness for this life. And through that, I've really been able to see that how much gratitude can affect our inner life, our inner happiness, and then radiate out to those around us. So that's where, in my mind, like the power of choice becomes so important.
Well, what comes to my mind right away is that we have had two people in our community in this last year who were quite ill and disabled and made the choice for medically assisted dying. And what struck me in both cases was the degree of gratitude and reliance that they both had to face death, and how their clarity and strength, there was also struggle. There was pain. There was not being able to sleep. There were all kinds of difficulties. And yet, that connection back to the teachings, to the practices, particularly to the light, and in one case, very deeply to Tara, and a whole new relationship developed, which allowed both of them to radiate, really. They were just radiant. And then that radiant just traveled out to all the rest of us in the community. The gift that they both gave was just probably one of the most touching things of my life. And it was their gratitude. At the very heart of it was the gratitude.
Yeah, what you said there about the pain and the suffering and the sleepless nights, then you said, and yet. And it reminds me of a haiku, and I'm forgetting the author. It's a Japanese poet. And he writes, "This world of dew is, yes, a world of dew, and yet." So it's like all this pain exists, all these hardships, all this suffering in the world, and yet there's beauty, there's love, there's the light, and that power that sustains all of us and encourages us to keep going. And yeah, hearing you appreciate kind of the importance of community, that feels very important too. Community and how we connect with others and how that can nurture our contentment in life and our joy and our happiness. And I think with that, thinking about the pain in the world, it's a good segue into our next question. Someone asks, "Dear Swami, how can we carry hope in difficult times?"
Yeah, that's quite a challenging question. I think I'll speak about a few months ago for me, actually for the last couple of years. There's a particular conflict in the world that touches me with a lot of sorrow. And it's because of a personal connection that I had to that part of the world. And what I found at one point is I had to stop reading the news because I was waking up in the middle of the night, angry, talking to presidents of this country and that country, and realized that that wasn't serving. It wasn't serving the issue, the cause. It wasn't serving myself. And so this question of hope, I mean, just looking right now, what's happening in the world, like it just seems like there's an endless list of places that are in conflict. And I think one thing I know that, Katie, you're getting ready right now to be in the classroom teaching the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita. And I think, yeah, it goes all the way back to those thousands of years ago where the brothers are on the battlefield. And here we are, we're brothers on a battlefield in the modern world. And so I think in some ways I find that perspective helps me not to dismiss what is happening and say, oh, well, you know, it happens every century, or I don't mean that. But it does give a perspective that we're human, we're caught in human drama. And so what do I do about it individually? And I think it really is an individual question that each person has to ask. And I think for some people, it's activism. And for some people, I think that is the way of taking a stand, of reaching out, of saying very clearly, this is where I stand, and this is where I want to see things happen. And there are all kinds of varying degrees of activism that happens. And I think that's an important element. And I think also for some people, it's like if I think about the ashram, I know at one point we got an email from someone who was quite upset because the ashram had not taken a stand on a political situation in the world. And so she was going to cut off her connection. And that was her choice. And it really caused me to think a lot about, well, what is it? You know, how do we contribute to hope? How do we contribute to what's happening in the world? And it didn't take me very long to be reminded that every single night, those of us who live here make a commitment to be in that temple, to chant. And we chant for people who have asked to be on the prayer list, and we chant for people everywhere in the world. So to me, that is another action that is taken. Throughout the day, you'll see people stand and do the Divine Light Invocation, and you know that they're putting people in need or putting the world into the light. So I think hope is a question that really, it's an individual one that everybody has to kind of wrestle with in a way. Like, what is hope for me? And how do I act on that hope? For what I wish, for what I'd like to see happen, what may not happen, but I want to contribute in some way. Sometimes I'm reminded of Swami Radha. Here's a woman who lived through 2 world wars. She lived through the horror of the Holocaust. And she didn't lose hope. She didn't quit. She listened. She listened to that voice that kept saying, what is the purpose of this life? Why am I in this body? What have I come to do? She listened, she asked, and she followed through. And I think that's what we can all do. Why am I here? and listen and then take action on what we hear.
I hear multiple levels here: hope in one's personal life and personal path, and then the sense of hope required to live in this world of tragedy with all that is going on in the world, politically, religiously, in all different communities. And I mean, I think you mentioning the prayer list and the power of mantra for those in need, the power of light. And what helps me is thinking of what I can do as an individual to cultivate hope in myself. And you mentioned, thinking about history and the centuries and centuries of war, and how really the reality that is part of this life, that there is life and there's suffering and there's death. And yet, what can I bring every day into my life to cultivate hope? And I know for me, and I think for you too, because we've talked about this in different settings, kind of the power of being informed comes forward. And also knowing, like you said, when to turn the computer off and stop reading the news. But I wonder, from your perspective and your experiences, and especially your time with Swami Radha, how do you find faith fitting into hope? What is that relationship like? And what has it taught you in your life?
Well, I would say I certainly see faith in my life in the practices and in the teachings here. I mean, this has been my experience here. So it's not to exclude anything else, but to talk about my experience. Because I've seen the results. I've seen changes in my life. I see the changes in other people's lives. I see people come to the ashram, for example, who've never been here before. They've never done the Divine Light Invocation. They've never chanted mantra, and they leave with a brilliance. Many of them leave with an inner shining light that is just so apparent. And one of the key things that people say during these right now our 5-day guided retreats is, I've never talked so openly with people I don't even know about these deepest parts of my feelings, my thoughts. And it's almost like they're in awe that this could even happen. And I think that's one of the things about hope and about faith, is finding community wherever we are, finding people who can listen, who are committed to learning, to opening, to offering, not a community that is closed and is angry. And I don't think that really helps much, because there's already enough anger. But it's more finding people, which is what happened for me with this situation I was talking about just a minute ago, is I found people who also had access to other information that I didn't have. And it lifted me right up and out of my own sense of despair. It broadened my understanding of a situation that was beyond, let's say, just the news or whatever. So I developed a community around that situation that was very, very helpful for me.
The power of community, yes, in developing hope and faith and feeling that support that is so necessary in times of grief and sadness. Well, thank you so much, Swami Samayananda, for sitting down and having this conversation with me. I hope listeners have gained some insight into happiness and hope on their spiritual path. And I look forward to our next episode. Namaste.
Namaste, Katie. Thank you.
Yasodhara Ashram is located in British Columbia on the unceded traditional territory of the Ktunaxa and Sinixt peoples. If you have questions that need answers, you can submit them to the form link in the description. You can learn more about the ashram and Swami Samayananda Radha's teachings by visiting our website at yasodhara.org.